Y'all, can I tell you about these Tecovas boots? I don't know if y'all know this, but these boots are handmade, high quality, stylish, and comfortable right out of the box. I know we buy everything online these days, but boots are something you really should get fitted for. And it just so happens Tecovas is based right here in Austin. So come shop with me at the Tecovas store on South Congress or the Domain. That's TECOVAS.com. Don't go gently, y'all. Today on CityCast Austin, clearly summer is here. Today is the summer solstice, the longest day of the year. It's hot, y'all, so we got to talk about it. Will we break more heat records this year, or will we get a reprieve? We're here today with Avery Tomasco, a native Austinite and a meteorologist with CBS News, to chat about all things weather, the heat dome, hurricane season, and embracing your brown grass. CityCast Austin is brought to you by our exclusive launch partner, Tecovas. It's Thursday, June 20th. I'm Nikki Devon, and this is what Austin's talking about. I'm here with Avery Tomasco, an Austin native, a meteorologist for CBS Austin, and a person that lovingly described himself as a true weather nerd. Hi, Avery.
Hi, Nikki. So great to be with you today.
Let's get into the heat, because last year I can probably count on two hands the amount of days that I spent longer than 5 minutes outside, because the heat was it was on a different level. I have PTSD. It was on a different level. So you think this year is going to be the same? Is it going to be worse? I need to know I need to prepare myself mentally for what's coming.
Multifaceted conversation here. Yeah, 2023. Well, it was awful.
It
started early too. I know. So summer officially starts, 21st or 22nd, depending on whether it's a leap year. Before we even hit summer last year, we were racking up triple digits, and we had a new record heat index value in Austin of 118 degrees that happened in June of last year. Heat index is what it feels like. And if you were outside, it felt terrible on that one day where we had a heat index of 118. And then we got through the rest of the summer. We racked up something like 70 or 80 triple digit days. It was the second hottest summer in Austin's history. It was miserable. Here we are in 2024, and so far we're doing better. Listen, if we get more rain in the spring, we'll be better in the summer. And locally, we did okay in the rain department for the city of Austin. You go towards North and East Texas, they got absolutely drenched. They have so much moisture in the soil. That acts like a buffer as we get into the summer season to absorb some of the sun's energy. As soon as that buffer is gone, then the temperatures really start ramping up. So we're in better shape this year heading into the summer than we were last year. That alone should help us out. Another factor is that some of the long range data looking, 2-3 months in the future, which is kind of a crapshoot, don't get me wrong, but you can still draw some conclusions from some of that really long range data. It does not want to park the heat dome right on top of us. Last year, we had the heat dome on top of us for months on end, which is why it was our second hottest summer in history.
I have been wondering what a heat dome is for like 4 weeks. Now, what is a heat dome?
Yep. So atmosphere can be broken up into two broad categories: high pressure, low pressure. Low pressure, colder temperatures, rising air, rain chances. High pressure, exact opposite. That's sinking air, a lot of sunshine, hotter temperatures, no rainfall. The stronger an area of high pressure is, and they can get really strong in the summer, the hotter the temperatures are underneath it. Because general physics says that if you're bringing air from up here, from a higher altitude down to a lower altitude, that air is going to compress on its way down. Compressing air gets hotter. Physics. You're putting molecules closer together, they're bouncing around, that's more energy, hotter temperatures. So that is the basics of high pressure. And when it's parked right on top of you for months on end, it just gets hotter and hotter, or it stays hot. It stays hot.
So we are our heat dome is essentially like a weighted compression blanket.
Correct.
It's just like
so I would even call it just a a sweater that you tried to wash, but you got to function tonight, and you need that sweater dried quick, but it's not done in time in the dryer, so it's still damp, and you got to wear it. And it's all hot from the dryer. That's what life is like under the heat dome in Texas, because we're right next to the Gulf of Mexico.
How do we get the heat dome to go away? How do we get rid of the wet sweater?
Well, there's nothing you and I could do. There's nothing humanity can do. Mother Nature's going to do what she wants. That's the bummer. The only thing we can hope for is that the heat dome is variable. It moves. Generally across the southern U.S., it can go from east to west. It can kind of ebb and flow. That's usually what happens. And I think this year that is going to be more likely. The long range data wants to put the heat dome not right over Texas, but instead kind of towards the desert Southwest, New Mexico, Arizona, those parts of the world, Southern California. If that pans out, if we have that heat dome on top of us less, then we're doing better. That keeps the door open for higher humidity. That is never great from the Gulf of Mexico, but that also keeps some additional rain chances in play.
So speaking of rainfall, where are we this year in terms of like filling up our reservoirs?
Bad.
Oh, no.
Bad. So very recently, the LCRA, the Lower Colorado River Authority, they manage our chain of highland lakes that runs up from Lake Buchanan all the way down to Lake Travis with a series of dams along the way. They just had a meeting to kind of talk about where we stand now, where we're heading for the summer. And long story short, it's better after the storms we've had this spring, but we are far from out of the woods in terms of water issues. So Lake Travis, 42% full, which is terrible heading into a summer season. Lake Buchanan, 74%, I believe. It has done a lot better. It's gotten like 14 feet of extra water, elevation gain. That's awesome. Lake Travis did not see the same sort of benefit. Lake Travis is the main water supplier for Austin, but the LCRA can kind of tweak which of the reservoirs, Lake Travis or Lake Buchanan, they can take water from. So they're trying to take more from Lake Buchanan to help Lake Travis out, to prevent faster dropping water levels. With the explosive growth that Central Texas has seen for decades now, and with the really bad drought that has persisted since 2019, variably, we're in bad shape. The summer months is when we're hot and we're dry for days, weeks on end, and we see Lake Travis drop pretty quickly through the summer, both from water use and from evaporation, just because of how hot and dry it is. There's a surprising amount of water that just leaves going into the air during the summer season. I'm going to be blunt. I hate where we stand right now with water levels. I hate it. I especially hate it because we got enough rainfall in the spring season to take us from stage 2 to stage 1 drought restrictions. I worry that there's kind of a false sense of complacency of everyone's like, okay, mission accomplished, we're good. I'm going to water my yard 3 times a week again. And then water levels are just going to keep dropping and dropping. So we'll see where we go, but it's not great.
What can Austinites do just on a basic level that can help? I'm of the mindset that every little bit helps. So what can we do on our end? Just to help.
By far the biggest use of water, bar none, irrigation.
Really?
Like 70%, I think was the number that was quoted from me, from an LCRA representative, of our water use goes into the grass in the front and backyard.
What?
Let it brown. Let it die. Wear it with pride.
What?
Let the grass die. Get it back to health in the fall or whenever we're starting to get rainfall again. Yeah, 70%. It's a remarkable number. You taking a bath, you taking a shower, you doing the dishes. It's a much smaller amount of water compared to how much is just going into keeping the grass green, which is insane to me.
You just blew my mind. I cannot get over that number. That is a crazy number.
That's why our lake levels drop so quickly in the summer, both because of evaporation and more importantly, because that's when people's yards are starting to brown and die, and they're trying to prevent that and keep their yards healthy. And on one hand, I understand it. Some people put a lot of money and a lot of effort into manicuring the yard, keeping it looking good. But on the other hand, it's unsustainable. When our water levels are low and people are putting 70% of our water into the yard just to keep something green, it's not good. So that's why there's been a big push ever since about 2011 to go to xeriscaping, landscapes that use native plants, drought tolerant stuff, or things that don't need to be watered at all, so that the outdoor water use can be curbed significantly. But it's still a problem, and it will be this summer.
I remember summers as like when it was summer, your grass got brown. Like it was like that's what happens, and then it comes back, and it's the circle of life. And that I don't remember, and I know everybody's not the same, but I do not ever remember my parents watering our grass or any of that. It just seemed like a very Texas thing.
Yeah, I don't think we did either.
So I'm hearing we need to give. Maybe we need to make offerings to Mother Nature in the form of
sacrifices.
Sacrifices like not watering your grass.
Oh, okay. That's a lot better than offering your firstborn.
No, yeah. I mean, especially, I feel like since I don't have any kids, I can't be offering other people's kids. But
I have one, and I'm waiting for the right time to where I can make it most worthwhile.
Toss it to the volcano. Yeah.
Just lift her up
Mother
to the gods.
Nature,
yes, please.
Lift him up.
Accept my sacrifice. Give me some AC.
We'll be right back after this break. And we're back with Avery Tomasco, a meteorologist with CBS Austin. So speaking of the Gulf of Mexico, you mentioned, what are we expecting as far as hurricane season? I'm always fascinated how we get blowback from hurricane season.
This hurricane season is poised to be explosive. La Nina, while it keeps us hotter and drier in the spring, fall, and winter months, it also reduces the amount of wind shear in the place that hurricanes develop, which is the Atlantic, the Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico. Wind shear is changing wind speed and direction with height. If you have a lot of wind shear, hurricanes don't like that. It rips them apart. Sometimes they can't even form to begin with, let alone organize and intensify. With less wind shear, which is expected this hurricane season, now through the end of November, that generally increases the odds that a hurricane will, 1, develop, and 2, intensify, which brings me to point number 2. The Gulf of Mexico, on fire. The Caribbean, on fire. The Atlantic, on fire. They're all the hottest they've ever been at this point in the year. In that development region, you significantly increase the potential for a hurricane to be stronger and to rapidly intensify. So that is why we have a really aggressive preseason forecast for hurricane activity this season. The bad news is for coastal areas, obviously, and even farther inland, hurricanes are bad. Wind, storm surge, flooding, and with how warm and how humid it is and how much moisture is going to be available because of these warm Gulf waters, we're looking at any storm system, even a tropical storm, producing more rainfall than it usually would, which will increase the flood threat. The good news is, as I mentioned, we need water. To fill Lake Travis, it needs to flood. It needs to flood badly. The last time that happened was October 2018. The Llano River flooded to its second highest level in recorded history.
I remember
and that sent Lake Travis up 30, 40 feet in just a few days' time. Before that, everyone was belly aching like they are now. Where's the water? Why are we so dry? And then we had that one flood in the fall of 2018. And suddenly there's too much water. People are saying, open the gates, let the water downstream. That's how it goes in Texas. Texas droughts end in Texas floods. And there's a potential, especially this year more than any, I would say since Harvey in 2017, that we will get something of that nature to come into Texas, hopefully in a way that doesn't devastate the coastline and can give us some rainfall that we've been begging for. Because without that, the summer is just a wasteland.
Today is summer solstice. What should people do to take advantage? Because my Pisces brain, I'm into the astrology. I'm like, okay, it's solstice time. It's time to regenerate and renew. It's the summer. Mm-hmm. What do you have to say about summer solstice?
I hate summer. As a lifelong Texan, I think
Avery.
that I'm sorry. I got to get it out there. Winter is my favorite, and there's a fundamental reason why. If it's cold outside, you can always add more layers to warm yourself up. If it's hot outside, you only got so many layers to take off before you're starting to break some laws. And then you're out of luck. You got to find some AC, and if it's your AC, you're spending money to stay cool. Or you're having to spend money to go to a water park or Barton Springs or whatever. So I'm cheap. I like being able to just add clothing to keep myself warm instead of having to run the AC and spend money to stay cool. So that's where I am, but I will try to put that aside to answer your question. How do you take advantage of the summer solstice? Longer daylight hours. That's great. More time to spend outside. In fact, 14 hours of daylight here in Austin compared to 10 in the dead of winter, December. So that's quite a bit more sunlight. That's 4 more hours of daylight. The question is, how do you take advantage and not get heat exhaustion on a daily basis? Get outside in the morning, take a nap in the heat of the afternoon, go outside in the evening. That's my recommendation. If you got to be outside, Barton Springs is the best.
I love that. When summer starts, I'm like, yes, summer. I'm going to feel the sun on my skin. All my melanin's going to be popping. I'm so excited about it.
I'm going to turn into a lobster. Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah. I want this sun on my skin. And then like literally 4 minutes into being outside, I'm like, I hate it here. Why do I still live here? And then I'm a masochist. Then the next day, I'm like, today will be better.
Look at the sun. It looks so beautiful from inside.
It's so green. The sky is so blue. And then
from
you
this
get outside.
air-conditioned room, it looks great. Then the swamp hits you. You step outside, not only does a swamp hit you, but a few more mosquitoes get inside, and then you got to spend the next few days trying to kill them. I hate the summer, Nikki. I hate it. Everything's trying to kill you.
I'm definitely in an abusive relationship with Texas summers. I love them, but I'm just like, why do you, it's so hot.
You do so you, Nikki. You go outside, wear some sunscreen, bring a misting fan.
Yes.
That's my pieces of advice. I'm a dad now of 2 years, a 2-year-old toddler. Her name's Mila. I love her to pieces. She was born in February 2022. And, she's still a baby in that first summer. And it was also really hot in 2022. Babies can't sweat. So I'm like, how do I keep this girl cool if we want to be outside? Misting fans. If it's dry enough outside, I mean, that is so good. Just to have a little water on your face. You're taking advantage of thermodynamics. Evaporative cooling is your friend. That's why we sweat. But give yourself a little extra spritz. And that helps a lot too.
How were Austin summers different from today in your memory?
Not as hot. I mean, there's ebbs and flows. Some summers are hotter, some are less hot. But what we've seen so much lately, so consistently, is just getting hotter, more humid. As we're trapping more energy in our atmosphere, it's going to get hotter. It's going to get more humid. And I hate that it's been such a consistent trend, especially, I want to say since 2011. 2011 is still our hottest summer in history. 2011 was just so far above anything we had ever known before. It was insane. And people were, conjecturing, oh, we'll never do that again. Because it was just so far out of the norm. But here we are, 2022 was just behind 2011. And then 2023 was hotter than 2022, but still just behind 2011. I mean, very small margins. So we're very consistently now on a yearly basis getting hotter. So that's how it's changed for me. You've got more heat. It's harder to spend more time outside. Thankfully, I was a kid, growing up in Austin. So, kids don't care. They're going to find a way if they want to have fun outside.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, though, I don't even see as many kids outside as I used to see when I was a kid, for sure.
It's tough. It's dangerously hot. I mean, even for young, healthy kids trying to go outside play, if they're not doing so in a splash pad or at a pool or something, it is dangerous. I mean, just to put it in context for you, the National Weather Service has 2 different things they can issue, 2 different warnings or advisories they can issue when it's too hot or dangerously hot: heat advisory or excessive heat warning. We've already had 2 days of excessive heat warnings in Austin this year, earlier than ever in history. That happened back in May because of the heat and, more importantly, because of the humidity. So if you're in May, when kids are still in school and they're having to stay inside because of the heat, it's only going to get worse in the summer. It makes me a little sad. The opportunities to enjoy yourself outside in this beautiful city that we call Austin, all the things you can do, the green belts, the hiking, sightseeing. It's harder to do those things when it's so hot. I mean, you can manage, but it's not as
so hot.
Not as fun. And it's the fact that it's just consistently getting hotter is a bummer. So I'm bummed.
So you call yourself a weather nerd. I have an affinity for people that self-identify as nerds.
Yes.
And so I want you to give me an explanation for that loving term.
We got to go way back in time. My weather nerdiness started as a kid. I would go hunting every now and then with my dad as a kid. And I think I caught the nerdy weather bug when on one of our hunting trips. We were sitting in the deer blind, nothing above us except for a tree. And it was a cold winter day, right in the middle of deer season. And all of a sudden it sounds like rain's coming down, but it's not rain. And I see these little white pellets falling into the deer stand. I'm like, what is this? There's no storm, so it's not hailing. What is going on? It was sleet. It was rain freezing into ice pellets and then making this incredible noise in the middle of nowhere. And I was like, what is this? I got to know what this is. Fast forward, I'm watching Hurricane Katrina on TV. I'm watching these different weather disasters, and I'm wanting to know the how, the why. I want to know the science. And so I knew pretty early on. I mean, I think I was 12 years old when I asked for a weather station for Christmas.
Wow.
And I installed it so improperly, but I still loved looking at that data. From a very early age, I was fascinated with weather. I wanted to know all about it. And so I was like, I got to do this. How best to do this? I went to school, Texas A&M, learned everything. I was like, man, this is cool. And I enjoyed every time the light bulb went off and something connected about what I'm seeing outside and how does that translate to science. It was awesome for me. And so I wanted to go and give that to as many people as possible. And what better way to do that than put myself on TV and quite literally spread it to the masses.
I mean, at 12, I didn't know anything about who I was at 12. I knew I liked to break dance. That was about it. I love that you were just like, what is this? I need to know everything about it.
I caught the bug and there was no cure. I had the cure was finding out more and following this passion. And thankfully I had lovely parents that supported me the entire way. I mean, I would go to sleep watching local meteorologist News 8 Austin is what it used to be called. Now it's Spectrum News, but it was News 8 Austin. Weather on the 8s, Burton Fitzsimmons. I would fall asleep to that on TV. Mark Murray, Jim Spencer. I was obsessed. And
Jim Spencer was my person. You couldn't tell me. It was Jim Spencer and Troy Kimmel were the two that, like, for me, I was like, if they say it, it is true.
Sometimes I had to stop and pinch myself. Like everything I set out to do since I was a kid, I've done. And I think I'm doing okay at it. We're going on 8 years almost coming up next year, which is wild.
8 years
in Austin. Yeah, almost 10 years in the industry.
Wow. Oh my God, Avery, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here today. This is so much fun. This is awesome.
This is a hoot. You're a hoot. This is fun.
Thank
a hoot and a half.
That's all for today here on CityCast Austin. You'll find links to Avery's reporting and social media in our show notes. If you enjoy the show, why not tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Austin newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye, y'all.